Welcome to Unraveling Success. I'm so excited today. We have one of my favorite people on the podcast today, Sara Capecchi. Sara owns Capecchi Company. It's a real estate firm. Sara resides in Hudson, Wisconsin with her husband, Dave, and two very busy boys, Finn and Ollie. And in her spare time, Sara loves to entertain. And I would say among her favorite things is winning. Sara is very competitive. So whether it is how many steps you're getting in or it is board games, Sara will find a way to win. And one super fun fact about Sara is that she is a coach of one of her son's football team. And I love that.
This is true. This is true.
Best mom ever. So Sara, will you kick us off and share with us what your definition of success is?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Beth. So fun to do this with you. I thought long and hard about this question because I've thought long and hard about this question throughout my career, right, as a real estate agent. And we have had a lot of success. But what does success mean to me? And for me, it honestly means achieving something that I didn't think was possible. Whether it's big, whether it's small, success is when you achieve something you never dreamed, hoped, imagined that you could do. Mm-hmm. And yet you put in the work, you put in the grit, the determination to do it, and you did it. So whether it's losing a few pounds, whether it's, landing a huge client, it's something you didn't think you could do and you struggled through it, but you did it anyways. That is success to me.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. It reminds me of, expanding your capacity. And I think, when you start out in any journey, if you look at who you were probably when you first started in real estate and then who you are now, it's not the same person. And the capacity that you have now versus probably when you started is like wildly different. So that is a great one. That has to be like one of my faves. I might have to revisit my definition of success now.
I love that.
So share with us how you first got into real estate to begin with.
Yeah, I always say real estate kind of found me. Unfortunately, I hit a really low point in my life, and I woke up one day and just didn't know who I was anymore. I wasn't doing anything that was fulfilling. Marriage was tough. And I had a 2-year-old at home, and long story short, read a book, reached out to the author because that's a very logical thing to do, right? And the author actually responded. I asked, would you be willing to work with me? She agreed. And there began my journey of working on myself. 6-month journey. She said, we're going to work on your spiritual, mental, physical, emotional health. We're going to work on all the things. And if you could do anything and you knew you wouldn't fail, what would you do for work? And I said, I think that I would do property management. I had managed some big townhome developments, and I loved it, that we had owned, and I loved it. We didn't have a management company. I did all the managing, and it was so fulfilling and fun. So I said, I think that's what I would like to do. She said, well, what would you need to do to get started? I said, I would need to get my real estate license. So I started with my real estate license. So that's kind of how I started out, was just going through this process of healing and restoring kind of my life and finding out who I was. Got my real estate license, and then was like, now what? Now what do I do? And a friend referred me to a team and said they're looking for a buyer's agent. I didn't even know what a buyer's agent was. And so I called them up and I said, sounds great, sign me up. And typically in real estate, you're lucky your first year to get 1 to 5 sales. And my first year I had 25 sales.
Wow.
And my second year, I had 25 sales. And so I never really actually then got into property management. So real estate kind of found me, wasn't something I was seeking out or hoping to do. From there, I thought, hey, I'm not too shabby at this. Let's keep running.
Nice. So then after, obviously you didn't stay a buyer's agent. So then at what point did you move on from that position, and what did that look like?
Yeah, so 2 years in real estate, I've got now 50 sales under my belt and a really good kind of foundation, what works, what doesn't work. The team that I was on, they had been in business for 20 plus years, was a family, and they didn't want to change how they did real estate. What kind of a, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of mentality.
Mhm.
But I could see the real estate industry rapidly changing. And so I had this desire to incorporate some new, fresh marketing ideas and strategies, and they were not interested in that. So 2 years in, I was like, I've got to make a change. And I was scared out of my mind. I know you were one of the people that I talked to about this. I I just was so scared to start my own thing, but I was like, I have to. So I took a leap of faith. I went out on my own as a real estate agent. And why that's scary is because obviously the team was feeding me some leads. I was working their open houses. So there was a safety net there.
Mhm.
And that safety net was gone the minute you left. And so now I had to do my own prospecting. I had to find my own clients. I had to kind of start from scratch a little bit.
Mhm.
And so I did it, and then it had great success that year. I had 35 sales then, so increased. And from there, I've gone up every year, year over year.
That's amazing. I think one of the things I've noticed is that it tends to be a really common pain point for people that venture out and make that bold move to bet on themselves is they hit a kind of pain point where they are able to see something better, bigger, better, the innovation of an industry, and they're like brave enough to bet on themselves and then just jump, even when you do it when you're scared. Um,
Yeah,
and
I think my biggest fear, honestly, has always been failure. And I don't, I'm so scared to fail that you put up these bumpers, you put up these safeguards, right? And so flying off a cliff, which is how I felt when I left the team,
yeah,
was not a great feeling.
no,
Um, but I just kept thinking to myself, instead of, kind of what's the worst thing that could happen, I just kept telling myself, what's the best thing that could happen? And when I
right,
thought about it like that and all the excitement of it, I was like, I can't not do this.
right. And I think too, you had had enough time to create enough evidence for yourself that
Yes.
you had already created success, even though there was a little bit of a safety net there. You know, leads don't turn into something on their own. So you
Right.
had something to do with the success of it. It wasn't just like it was sold and put in your lap, you know?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One of the unique, one of the unique marketing tactics that you've had great success in is video.
Yes.
And you and I have talked a lot about video because that's an area that I am growing in and have goals surrounding. But tell us just a little bit about how you first started leaning into video and what that felt like, and kind of where it started and then where you're at with it right now, because I feel like that's one of the areas that really sets you apart is video.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I left the team and I started out on my own, the success rate for realtors, I should say the failure rate really for realtors, um, 80% of realtors fail within their first 5 years
Hmm.
of real estate. And I
Hmm.
did not want to be a part of that statistic. So 2 years in, I leave the team knowing these stats and I'm scared out of my mind. And I thought to myself, how can I guarantee that I'm not going to be a part of the statistic? And the only way that I knew to do that was to create such a great foundation, that, I couldn't fail. So I hired a coach. Best thing I've ever done. I hired a real estate coach who could hold me accountable, who could challenge me, and really help me build just a great, solid foundation. And one of the first things that coach told me, well, I should start out with this. I don't share this often, but the first coach that I had was not a good fit. And I didn't know what to do. Is it
Mhm.
me? Is it
Mhm.
them? And I don't talk about this a lot. I talk about this coach that I hired and what he challenged me to do. But to be perfectly honest, that first coach that I had was a woman. I thought I wanted to hire a woman who understood the complexities of being a business owner and a mom. And she gave me way too much grace. And I was paying all this money and I thought, I need someone who's going to hold my ass to the fire. Like, this
Yeah.
is what I'm paying for here.
Right.
Not to encourage me to bring my kids to an open house or go door knock. No, thank you. This is a business. And so I fired that first coach after 3 months. So it was my second coach that I hired, that challenged me to do video. And I said, my exact words were, "Oh, hell no, I'm not doing video." And he said, "No, you are." And I said, "No, I'm not." And he said, "Then I'm not coaching with you." And I was like, this is what I needed. This is 100% what I signed up for. So, needless to say, I made video and I started out just recording business owners and just highlighting and featuring their businesses and then posting it on Facebook, which was so scary to me. And then I got a couple hundred views and I was like, oh, that wasn't so hard. And then I just built it over time. Now, nobody in my area was really doing video at that time, just maybe a couple agents. Um, it wasn't until I grasped onto what I was good at with video, which is storytelling. So
Mhm.
I started to see kind of people tell me like, you're really good at sharing stories. I really enjoy watching your stories. I love watching your charismatic personality and your listing videos and things like that. So it wasn't just about doing video. It was about finding what I was good at and comfortable at and my niche in video.
Mhm.
And then it just took off from there. So all of a sudden, overnight, I had a video go viral, 6 million views. It was a story about a real estate transaction. And and so now video is the number one reason for our success. Maybe the second. First is coaching, second is video. Um, but I again took that leap. I didn't want
Mhm.
to do video. It was super uncomfortable. And then I just did it and I kept kind of pivoting. So I would make this video and go, that's not quite me. I'm not a dancer in videos. I'm not going to make those dancing TikToks. I don't love the pointing ones. That's not me. But what do I enjoy doing? So really kind of, you know, finding
Yeah.
where my niche was within video.
I think there's so much to be said for that because I think oftentimes when people are leaning into video, um, they are, just kind of look to see like what's popular, what's going viral, what's doing this, and then they mimic it without a filter of is this me, right? And I think if you actually start out with that as like your one filter that you put things through is like, is this me? um, that would make video a lot more successful rather than just like, hey, what's popular now, and then trying to, follow the herd.
Exactly. And I always say too, watch watch videos that you're interested in, and
Hmm.
that's probably what you're going to want to make, right?
Yeah.
Something that interests you because you're going to have a similar audience, that
Hmm.
you attract. So who's your audience? And make sure you're making videos for your audience. Make sure you are making videos that interest you, because if they don't
Hmm.
interest you, they're not going to interest other people. So there's a lot of different things and questions that you can ask yourself prior to making video versus just like, to your point, seeing what everybody else is doing and trying that and trying this. And you're going to have to try the waters a little bit to
Yeah.
find out. But after a while, you really do need to find what your niche is in video to be successful.
Mhm. I listened to a speaker who was teaching on speaking a few weeks ago, and what his main topic was actually on the power of storytelling.
Mm,
And the timing, it's funny that you talk about that's a strength of yours, because the timing for me of listening to this speaker teach about speaking by using storytelling was
hmm.
really powerful, because I had a client account that I was going out and I was speaking to their team. It was about 24, 25 people. And I had some topics that they wanted me to cover, and they were topics that can be hard to speak about. And
Sure.
these people didn't know me. And,
Mm,
so I was a little intimidated, but also, like, kind of excited, because I like to do, it's a really good growth opportunity for me. And so I was, like, running at it scared, you know?
mm,
And, and after listening to this man speak and about the power of storytelling, what I decided to do is go back to my content that I had put together for this account. And I realized when I was reading through that actually I had personal stories that could relate to every single
mm,
one of these topics.
mhm.
And so instead of these topics becoming like dry and, it's like on harassment and like a variety of different topics, right? And there are topics that if you have some random person that you don't know and they're going to come talk to you, your organization about it, you can just feel like everybody turning off.
Yeah.
But what I ended up doing is I ended up turning it into like really pulling into personal stories and explaining it in the terms of like relating it, and
Yes.
and had like some amazing feedback afterwards. So I think there is such power in storytelling, whether it be video or in front of a bunch of people speaking.
Mhm.
Just stories in general, I think, resonate with people a lot.
Yeah, you become so much more relatable,
Mhm.
when you're
Mhm.
storytelling and you've captured their attention a lot more than just presenting on information. I mean,
Mhm.
I could make videos on the 5 ways to sell your house, but that's not very interesting.
Mm-mm.
But if I go through and tell a story about the 5 ways to sell your house or help how I helped Sally,
Yeah.
and what we did, right? That's so much more engaging. That's so much more interesting,
Yeah.
and relatable to people.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
So you've had significant growth in your organization, and consistently so.
Yes.
And with any growth comes all sorts of like challenges. So
Yes.
what have been some of the hardest challenges that you've had to navigate as your organization grows?
Yeah, I think a couple of these that come to mind are one, it's really hard um, to not to stay in your own lane. It's really hard to stay in your own lane and not look at the success of other people and what they're
Mm,
doing and what's working with them and constantly want to incorporate and do those things. Right?
mhm.
So like what I'm doing is working really well, but I constantly want to um pivot and pull this in and pull that out because so it worked for so and so. And I've had to a lot actually unfollow people, unfollow realtors in the industry close by me, because there's a lot of all right. So imposter syndrome. So this is something that I struggle with, and it's so hard because you look at what everybody else is doing and you look at what everybody thinks that you are, and you're like, that's not who I am. I have so many struggles. So that's a huge struggle, and I think people see the confidence that I have and they think there's no way she struggles with that. That's a huge thing for me. Hiring people, not my strength. And I've had a lot of change in my team And I've had to ask myself, like, is it me? Is it them? Um, a lot, because it just has never felt like the right fit. And
Mhm.
there's been a lot of people who have been on my team, come and gone, who have gotten really offended, and that hurts so much, because I care so much about people. But ultimately, this is a business, and I have to
Mhm.
make business decisions. So the growth of the team, that's been a challenge, because
Mhm.
um, finding the right people in the right seats on the
Yeah.
bus is not easy.
No.
And you have an interview, and you're interviewing them, and they seem like the right fit, and they want to be a part of the team, and you get them on the team, and you're just like, gosh, why does this feel like it's not working?
Mhm.
And so we've had just a lot of struggles with that. So I would say imposter syndrome, building the team, finding the right people for the team, um, definite struggles of a business owner right here.
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate to that as well. Just the people part of business, I think that's probably, I would dare to guess, probably the number one thing as business owners. It's kind of funny because when you first start, you're excited, and then you get to a point where you're like working really hard, and then you're going to start hiring and building a team, and you're so excited. And then you realize, like, oh, actually, the hardest part of owning and operating a business is actually the people. It isn't the real estate or the insurance. It is the people. It's the team building, and I've very similar experience with team building, and it is a very humbling and very confidence shaking thing to go through. Like
You are
it's
you are
defining.
100% right on that.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Um, I want to talk. So imposter syndrome. I listened to. I think it was actually Darren Hardy. He does
Mhm.
these 5 minute morning like mentor videos in the morning, and I listen to them every morning and journal to them. And he, it was a couple months back where he actually said, imposter syndrome is just actually like a human condition, like that fear that someone's gonna like find you out, even though like you really are successful, and that yeah, you really did actually do that. But
Mhm.
just this weird feeling like, oh, it was like a fluke, and maybe it wasn't really me, and someone's gonna find out that I'm really not that good, or it's just but it was really funny to hear that in that mentor video, just saying like, I think it's just part of like the human condition. Like we
100.
all, it's part of the head tweak that we get the pleasure of combating as a business owner.
Right? And I think being a business owner can feel so lonely.
Mm,
You feel like
mm-hmm.
you're the only one going through it. And I I've been a part of masterminds, with you, and now part of another business mastermind, and it's so refreshing to get together and realize I'm not alone.
Yeah,
Everyone's having these same struggles and feeling the same way, because it does feel like constantly like I shouldn't be a business owner. I don't know what I'm doing. And then you get together with everybody else, and everybody's struggling with similar things. So it
yes,
feels good to have a community of business owners that you can kind of go, okay, I'm not alone here.
yeah. Give me a sense check. Am I crazy?
Yes.
Um, I agree. That line, "The leadership is lonely," is
Yes.
so true. But if you do surround yourself with people that, like you have, and I know it's something that I'm really intentional about as well, like you do, I mean, there's a confidence that comes with it once you start comparing notes and realizing like, okay, this is actually just part of the experience of being a business owner. And it's, you know, you just got to keep moving forward, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you a little bit. You mentioned firing your first coach.
Yes.
And um we have never talked about this, but I actually fired my first coach as well.
No way.
Yeah. So I want to hear from you, I have one like specific moment where I was like, oh, yep, this isn't going to work for me. Um, One, I want to hear your, kind of what led you to make that decision.
Yeah.
Um, and then I will share mine when you're done.
So going into coaching, you kind of don't know what to expect, but you still have expectations, right? Um, I had never been coached before, and I kind of anticipated. I was hoping to be challenged. I was hoping to be held accountable. So I was hoping that on a weekly basis we would talk about what we had talked about the week previous, and that I like my second coach would be like, hey, you need to do this or I'm not working with you. I kind
Mhm.
of expected a coaching experience like that. So with my first coach, she was a sweet woman who probably, I think all of her clientele was women, and it was women that were less passionate than I was. Let's just say that. Women
Mhm.
who wanted to balance motherhood and business a little bit more probably than I did at that time. I was all in. I was like, I'm not going to fail. That was just the place that I was.
Yeah.
And so for me, she was just too, um, like, oh, well, you could do this or you could do that, or you
Mhm.
could bring your kids with. And my expectation was that she was going to be like, you're doing this. This is what we're doing. I needed that in that moment.
Mhm.
So I realized for me, I needed a male. I just needed someone who could set aside the fact that I was a mom and say, well, who cares you're a mom? You still
Yeah.
got to get this done.
Yeah. Right.
She had given me too much grace. I didn't want someone to give me grace. I can make up excuses all day long by myself. I don't need you to help
Same.
me or give
Yes.
me permission to make excuses. And the
Uh-huh.
first one allowed me to make up excuses. And I was like, I'm good at this by myself. I don't need this. So those were the reasons it was not a good fit for me. And it was really hard because I didn't know. I didn't know if it was me, if it was them, if I just had unrealistic expectations. So I'm so
Mhm.
glad. Always listen to your gut. You know best.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I stuck with my gut. And then kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me was she was in the middle of moving, making a big move, and she was just so disconnected from my success and challenging me. And I just thought, I'm paying all this money, and and I need someone who's going to be present
Yeah.
and and value myself enough to know that she is not the right fit. So
Yeah. That's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah. Um, I can relate to the fact that for me, I almost need somebody that I'm a little bit that is not afraid of calling me out
yeah,
and will hold my feet to the fire. And I as well am an absolutely fantastic excuse maker. And I will even buy my own excuses. Like that is a good, and I will convince myself
yes,
I need that person that's willing to be like, I need to maybe be a little bit scared of you, a little intimidated, like, ooh,
yes,
and which is because I have found the even just if it's like a mentor or an accountability relationship, if someone's not willing to be like, hey, so like what you said you were going to do that and you didn't do that.
hmm
I It doesn't work unless you have someone who's willing to actually get a little uncomfortable.
yes,
So, but my coach was, and this was really early on when I had started Aspire, and we had grown, but I was just about at a point where I would need to hire, but I really did need to hire because just with how I work, like I really needed someone for like data entry and like the administrative stuff because I'm so not the person for that. And
hmm
it was definitely like an early hire, probably a little before you would say like financially would say, okay, yeah, now hire. But I am so convinced that like it's figure outable. You can always figure anything out. Like, okay,
100%.
so maybe it's not a full-time position, maybe it's 3/4, or maybe I'm flexible and the person needs flexibility. So their carrot is maybe they don't get paid as high, but they have certain freedoms that they normally wouldn't have. You mean everything is figure outable. And
Yep.
so I had told him that I intended on hiring, or that I really felt like that was the best next move for me. And
Mm-hmm.
he was like, no, you can't afford to hire.
Oh,
And I remember in that moment being like, did you just actually say no to me? Like, it
yeah.
wasn't that he said no, because I can take a no, but it was based off of like, you're not even getting creative here. You're not even trying to figure out how it can happen, or thinking outside the box with me to figure out how to bust past this ceiling. And frankly, I wasn't going to bust past that ceiling that I was at. Like, you hit certain, ceilings that you need to get past in business, and that's in any business. But I needed to do something different so that I could get past this benchmark. And
Yes.
um, and I remember just being like, and his immediate answer was just, he didn't even ask any questions. He just said, "No, you're not ready to hire." And so I fired him, and I
And I don't like what you're saying. Fired.
yes, you gone. See you later.
It's almost like, I think you're like me in this. Oh, are you going to challenge me in that? I'll show you. I'll prove you
Okay,
wrong.
sure. Watch me.
That's right. Now I'm not just hiring one, I'm hiring two. And
Yeah,
then watch.
exactly. I know.
Doubt
Yeah.
me.
It's funny because it's funny when you look back, and I don't know if you have any of these moments, but I have key moments where, like with him, he was like, "No, you can't hire." And I was like, "Well, I did. I hired right away, and it
Yeah.
was a good hire, and it did what I wanted it to do in helping me move to that next level." But I have a few more. There's a couple, like when I first started out, I started when I was 20 at a captive agency, and the agent that I worked for used to always tell me that I was just an order taker. And that is one of the, and I worked at that agency for just shy of 10 years. So this was like and it was actually part of my headspace, a part of the reoccurring voice in my head that I had to really work on getting over once I
Yeah.
decided to go out on my own and start my own book of business. Was that you're just an order taker. Like, I used to have dreams like you're just an order taker for a
Yeah.
long time. And that is something to this day that just like I can see how that feeling is,
Mhm.
like I pretty much work real hard to not be an order taker.
Right.
And then I remember there was another it was an agency owner, again, of a same captive company, ironically. And this agent would send leads here and there, and it was um this was probably maybe 6 years ago or so. And he actually said to me, you seem like somebody that, once you hit six figures, you just kind of are happy with that and you just glide through. And I was like, wow, you don't even know. We just put gas on a
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah, exactly.
I just listened and I was like, wow, that's the impression that you're getting. Interesting.
Mhm.
But I have those moments like where there's just, it puts a little extra like
Oh,
fire in your belly and you're like, oh, that's so funny.
yeah.
So do you have any of those moments that like are cemented, or that you can go back to and that really feel like they gave you just the extra fire in your belly?
Yeah, I think, for starters, so my husband was always the breadwinner, and we are super happily married now, but there was a time where marriage was really tough, and he made me feel like everything that we had was because of him, and
Mm,
everything that he had brought to the table, because he had a very successful career and a successful job. And I remember when I read that book and I worked, through some of those things, some of those lies that I had been told and told myself, um, that in that moment I said, I will always make more money than you, and I will never need you in that way. And that has always stuck with me. And he has honestly been one of my biggest cheerleaders in that. But I remember that moment where I did make the first time I had made more money than him, and how powerful that
Mhm.
moment was for me. And it's not about the money; it's about the
No.
me. It was
Mhm.
about the intention. It was about the success I felt in that moment, because I said it, but I didn't really know that I believed it.
Mhm.
And so coming back to kind of what your success was, that was successful to me, because I had achieved a goal I didn't really think was possible, but I was gunning for it. So I've had a few moments like that in my life. I think um, when you're successful as a real estate agent, there's a lot of realtors out there, and there's a lot of jabs, and there's a lot of behind the scenes talking. And so people talk, and say things and make things up about you. And
Mhm.
those just drive me, so I know one time I heard a realtor was saying to me, "Oh, Sarah pays for all her awards." And
Oh,
mhm.
jeez.
And it was funny to me, because I was like, that's laughable. One, I've never paid for an award. If I get an award, it is genuinely earned. I've never paid for anything, but there's a lot of pay to play things. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's the same for you in your
it is.
industry, but in our industry, it's super popular. And so, you'll have super agent of the year, and it's pay to play. So
Yeah.
you can get all these different awards. So, anyways, I was getting a lot of awards for different things and being nominated for different things. And this realtor had told another realtor, who was a good friend of mine, that that I paid for all those awards. And I was like, so I made a video.
I was gonna say, please tell me you turned it into a story.
No, I did. I made it a video and said, so just so you know, in our industry, there's a lot of awards you can pay for. I, Sarah Capecchi, will never pay for an award. Never have, never will. That's not my style. That's not who I
Yep,
am. But
same.
those moments just they give you the drive, they give you the fire. And there's been plenty
Right.
of those moments where people have questioned me or talked behind my back, who have assumed things about me that are just absolutely not true. And you have to just turn off that noise and keep running.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head. It's like what you choose to give energy to. And
100%.
because there's going to be those things like people saying things or someone saying something completely out of line to you. And,
Right.
you know, what I have over time learned, I guard my energy pretty significantly.
You
And
have
it's
to. You
not
have
worth
to.
it.
2 years ago, I left a brokerage that I was a part of for a long time, um, and they started telling other realtors they were trying to recruit to their brokerage that once I left, my business tanked. And
Oh,
and I
jeez.
have a lot of friends in this community who are
Yeah.
very faithful to me, and, very, very good friends. And so they started coming to me and saying, "Hey, I just want to let you know this brokerage is spreading this rumor that your business is tanked." What I find really interesting is I actually was the number one realtor in the Hudson, Wisconsin area last
Mhm.
year. The number one realtor. How can you say my business is tanked when I'm number one? Isn't
Yeah.
that fun? So I was
It's
like, I did say something to the broker. I just said, "Hey, it's really unprofessional. I'm asking you not to do that." But also I was just in my mind like, let's let the numbers speak for themselves.
right. And on top of that, it's realizing that like that's coming out of their mouth because of a bad spot that they're in. You know,
Yeah,
their feelings are hurt or whatever the motive is, right? It's a
right,
reflection of them.
right.
It's not a reflection of you. And for I would say the majority of people, like when you run into somebody that's, gossiping and spreading rumors and it's the negative like that, like it when someone hears that, I would say, for me, I question, okay, what's your
Mm,
motive for saying that? I question more the person's mouth that it's coming out of
right,
versus that it's true, you know?
right. Yeah. Who's the source? What's the motive?
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like you said, do I really want to put my time and energy into having this conversation about
Yeah.
it, about somebody else that's not even a part of this situation that I'm
Yeah.
in right now? So, yeah.
Yeah. I hear you. So do you have any success habits that you do like on a daily, weekly, just things that you kind of find that are like, if as long as I do this in my day goes pretty good.
Yeah. I will say this is one area I really suck at. I've read Miracle Morning. I have tried to get up early and start my day. And I'll be perfectly honest, I really enjoy sleeping in. I enjoy waking up with my kids and spending the first hours of my morning because the rest of the day is so crazy. And I work a lot of nights and weekends as well. So
Mhm.
I've given up on that and decided that that just doesn't work for me personally in this current stage of my life with my small kids.
Mhm.
Um, but for me, it's kind of not great. Maybe not something to be proud of, but it's just getting up, getting ready, and
Yeah.
working every day. So I work from home. My whole team, they all work from home. So I have the choice whether to wear my pajamas or not. Obviously I do have a lot of appointments that I have to get ready for, but sometimes it's just you're working in the business, right? And you
Yeah.
don't have to get up and get ready. So I would say the best thing that you can do and for me to be successful is put on my
Mhm.
high heels, put on my lipstick, get ready and put that business cap on and be a
Mhm.
business owner.
Yeah.
Because when you dress the part, you feel the part, you act the
Yes.
part, you are the part. And
Yeah.
if I were just sitting here in my pajamas, I wouldn't feel successful. I
Yeah.
would feel, just kind of relaxed. And for me, when I put on a pair of high heels or lipstick or now I'm looking the part, I'm feeling powerful and I'm ready for the day.
Yeah.
So I would say that is probably my biggest piece of advice for me that's
Mhm.
worked for me really well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's real. I mean, you getting up and being able to spend family time right away, like really, that's showing that your priorities are still making sure that you're staying really connected with the boys and your family, and that is a big deal, especially given what your evenings and weekends can look like. You're making a point to stay present and starting out your mornings with slow and connected is powerful. um and I love the whole getting ready piece every day. I took a small class on this, and it's enclosed cognition. So it's
Ooh.
actually it's what it is. It's where how you dress, it signals your brain like what you're doing and who you are, and it's very
Mhm.
powerful. And honestly, I learned that the hard way. That's the reason why I took a class, because I totally it's true, because I have the luxury as well to work from home, as does my team, and that can be a pretty dangerous
Yes, it can.
thing. Like, pajamas are really comfy.
They are so comfy, but you got to be in the right mindset.
Mhm.
To be a successful business owner, it takes a lot of positive mindset thinking. And I
Yeah,
think dressing just helps you put in that business
yeah.
mindset too.
Major. And that has been one big shift I have personally made over the past year, is like, okay, Beth, no more ponytail on top of your head and yoga pants. Like, get get yourself back into the groove of getting ready, and it's made a really big difference.
Yeah, it's
Big
crazy
time.
how it just shifts your brain into
Yeah.
the right mode of things. And
Yeah.
I find that my days are so much more successful when I'm ready for the success.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you, Sarah. This has been super fun. If you are interested in connecting with Sarah, all of her contact information will be in our show notes. So I appreciate your time and all the little nuggets of information, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Beth.